Hello viewers and welcome to yet another live-action commentated match of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. My name is Mitch and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today I'm pleased to present a game featuring Alexander Cimadon sitting to our left and Troels Berthelsen positioned to the right. On the left we have the Chaos faction Warlord Ku'gath Plaguefather as well as our initiative token, and on the right we happen to have the Eldar faction Warlord, an alternate art version of Eldorath Starbane. In assessing our opening layout of planets, we can abundantly see that planet number 1 is going to be Planum, which allows players to move a non-warlord unit to the planet of their liking. Planet number 2 is going to be Elwith, which allows you to look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add one of those cards to your hand, and put the remaining 2 on the bottom of your deck in the order of your choice. Planet number 3 is going to be Ossus 4, the Steel 1 resource planet. Planet number 4 is going to be Karnath, which allows you to trigger the battle ability of any other planet in play. And planet number 5 is going to be Farron, which allows you to pick and choose a non-warlord unit to be routed. As our opening deploy action, we've got a copy of Slaanesh's Temptation affixed to planet number 5, and that means that each and every unit that Troels puts into play that does not happen to be at planet number 5, where that Slaanesh's Temptation resides, has its resource cost increased by 1, and case in point, we happen to see a copy of the unique Eldar faction loyal unit, Spirit Seer Arathal, put into play at planet number 2. He's 2 attack, 3 hit points, 2 command icons, a lieutenant type unique unit. Whenever he happens to be declared as an attacker, you can pick one of your units present at that planet to strip a point of damage away from one of scarcely few healing effects in this game, and then we happen to see a copy of the Heretic Inventor as Alexander's subsequent deploy action, so it's very interesting to play that either before or after a copy of Slaanesh's Temptation. The Heretic Inventor costs 1, it's got a command icon, it's got 3 attack, 3 hit points, but the downside to that unit is that your opponent decides where exactly it's going to end up being deployed, and the problem with playing that after Slaanesh's Temptation is your opponent can make sure to put it at a planet where Slaanesh's Temptation is not, just because under normal circumstances, the Heretic Inventor is a pretty big deterrent for your opponent to send their Warlord, and Slaanesh's Temptation, really the only way to get rid of that planet is by sending a Warlord there. So, a fair few additional deploy options. The Heretic Inventor showed up, positioned at planet number 1. Very interesting choice indeed. We've got a copy of Starbane's Council sitting at planet number 5. Kind of another very odd choice, but if you look at our layout of planets, you see very few icons indeed. I guess the earliest any player would be able to win would be planet number 4 through technology icons, but both of our players are going to decide where exactly they want to send themselves. Eldorath decides upon planet number 5 to get rid of that Slaanesh's Temptation as soon as possible. Ku'gath instead goes to planet number 2. If he manages to deal out a bunch of damage to Spirit Seer Arathal, the requirement of Arathal's ability is that it target other units. He cannot remove damage from himself. And considering that as soon as Ku'gath takes damage, he's able to use his reaction to move it onto the enemy unit, 2 damage at a time is going to be pretty agreeable in, Ku'gath is going to be able to outpace taking that damage and reassigning it to you long before you would end up killing him. But planet number 1 is going to be a card and a resource, 1 to the left there by Alexander. Planet number 2 is going to be 2 cards, 1 by Alexander. Planet number 3 is going to be 2 resources, 1 to Alexander. Because of the presence of his Slith Mercenary, that's a 2-cost unit, which happens to... it's 2 cost, 2 command icons, 2 attack, 2 hit points. I was confused because the Heretic Inventor appears to be changing locations, but of course that is because the battle ability of the planet Planum is going to be activated, and that affords the opportunity for a Chaos player to strategically relocate that unit to the planet of his choice. So Planum enters the victory display there of Alexander. The only unit I've kind of not talked about yet is the Ku'gath's Nurgling sitting at planet number 4. That's going to be an additional card and resource for Alexander, and planet number 5 is going to be 2 resources for Eldorath. But looks as though Ku'gath takes a couple points of damage after dealing 1 point of damage out to Spirit Seer Arathal, so Ku'gath didn't have the opportunity to deliver any of that damage in response back upon his enemy, considering that that unique Eldar unit retreated from that planet at its first available opportunity to do so. But but Elowith allows Alexander the chance to add 1 card to his hand, and note that at our 5th planet, where currently resides the repositioned Heretic Inventor, Starbane's Council, it's got the initiative token. It's going to take the opportunity to take an attack at Alexander, so it's going to swing for 3. Promotion as a shield means that that unit's only going to take 2 points of damage, and it, in return, is going to take a swing, potentially killing off the Starbane's Council, but of course an Empower interjects itself, and that's going to be only 1 point of damage dealt to the copy of Starbane's Council, and there we see Farron is going to end up routing that copy of Ku'gath's Nurglings, and Slaanesh Temptation is entirely rejected. So it seems as though the Eldar were able to avoid the same fall from grace. Well, I guess the current Iyanden, Craft World Eldar were able to resist falling prey to the temptation of Slaanesh, as the original Eldar were not quite so adept at. But in any case, we've now got an HQ phase having come and gone. We've got a new 5th planet. It's going to be Yavharn, which allows both players to take a unit from their hand, put it into play directly into their HQ without paying the associated requisite cost. And very important to note is we've still got that copy of Starbane's Council positioned at planet number 4, which actually happens to be just beyond the victory condition of Alexander. If he ends up winning Elowith and winning Karnath, he'll end up winning the game through technology type icons. Very interestingly, we see a copy of Bloodied Reavers put out to planet number 5 by Troels, and we happen to see another copy of Slaanesh's Temptation affixed to that planet. That is going to incentivize Eldorath to show up at planet number 5, but should he choose to do so, he'll be dropping off that copy of Spirit Seer Aerithal, thank you, at that planet, and then that's going to be no good at all. Looks like our Chaos player had his Slith Mercenary bribed by our Eldar faction player, and note, anything, played out from this point on that doesn't happen to be at that planet where sits the Slaanesh's Temptation is going to be at a 1 resource cost premium, played out by Troels. We do happen to see another copy of the Slith Mercenary played by him after a promotion affixed to the Khorne Berserker at planet number 1, so that Khorne Berserker is a 2/4 with Brutal and a command icon. Looks as though Alexander decides to repurchase control of the Slith Mercenary. Interesting that he did this at planet number 2 as opposed to planet number 3, just because he's going to eventually want to try to win the game at planet number 3, but I guess he's more in want of resources as opposed to cards, or maybe he's trying to incentivize his opponent to go to planet number 2 and drop off the Spirit Seer there. But in any case, Ku'gath shows up to planet number 3. Note that the Ku'gath Nurglings have showed up at planet number 3, and that's going to result in 1 point of damage being dealt via their forced reaction. Hopefully, Alexander remembers to trigger that forced reaction. That's going to be 1 point of damage dealt to Ku'gath, and 1 point of damage dealt out to those Nurglings. Eldorath has decided to send himself to planet number 5, so unfortunately, he's going to drop off Spirit Seer Aerithal to that planet. He's going to be able to get rid of Slaanesh's Temptation, but that's going to be something along the lines of 5 or more cost worth of units sitting at that planet, and that is going to be Elowith quite handily won by our Chaos faction players. So that's going to be 2 of the blue technology type icons. That was going to be 2 cards, 1 to the left there by Alexander. Planet number 2 is going to be 2 resources, 1 by Alexander. Planet number 3 is going to be a card and a resource, 1 by Alexander. And I suppose his thinking here in, buying the Slith Merc at planet 2, and then sending his Warlord to planet number 3 is being able to attack, shift 1 point of damage from him onto the opposing Slith Mercenary, and then finish it off with his attack. Then he's going to be able to win at Karnath as well. He's going to be able to pick and choose what planet ability he would like to activate. He has decided to route Spirit Seer Aerithal, which I actually find to be a very curious choice, just considering that that'll show up, resent alongside Eldorath to an additional planet, presumably, Karnath, to throw a little bit of a spanner in Alexander's best laid of plans. So I think if it were me, I'd have probably used Ossus 4 just to steal a resource as opposed to routing anything. Or, given Alexander's, fondness for triggering Yavharn, maybe I'd have triggered that planet. But in any case, Eldorath is going to end up winning the battle at Yavharn. I do not believe he's exercising the option of triggering that planet's global ability there upon the conclusion of battle. That's going to be an HQ phase. That means that the initiative token, I suppose, goes to Alexander, and that'll be 2 cards, 4 resources for both of our players. That Ku'gath's Nurglings is now very nicely positioned at the victory condition. Oh my god. At the victory condition planet for Ku'gath, and now should Eldorath send himself and the Spirit Seer to Karrnath, that means they're going to take 1 point of damage, and should the same occur for that Khorne Berserker and Ku'gath himself, it's really not that big of a deal if a brutal unit takes a point of damage, and if Ku'gath takes a point of damage, because Ku'gath is able to reassign that damage, the Khorne Berserker is able to hit all the harder, and note that my little laugh there was because we see another copy of Slaanesh Temptation now played out to planet number 5, which is not planet number 5, Barless, the random card discard planet, which has a 2-card bonus, very appetitive option for Eldorath to be commit to, but, you know, why not make that as unappealing as possible, the planet where you attach Slaanesh's Temptation to? Just because generally Eldar players aren't big on activating Yavharn. If you send Eldorath there, go ahead and get rid of the Temptation. So, you know, who cares at that point? The Warlock Destructor that was played at planet number 2 was done so at a premium thanks to that Slaanesh's Temptation. So at the modified cost of 3, it's a 3-attack, 4-hit point unit that during the deploy phase you're going to have to pay a resource or discard it. We see a copy of Starbane's Council put out to planet number 5. I guess Eldorath really wants that resource Troels at this point in his Conquest LCG career, and something tells me this is a little bit earlier in his career than most other videos that we've seen thus far. This is going to be, you know, he's very heavily favoring playing out some very powerful combatants to units that are unfortunately irrelevant to Alexander's victory condition. But we end up seeing a copy of Ku'gath's Nurglings put into play at planet number 5. That's going to be 1 command icon opposite the 1 command icon of the Starbane's Council, so that could disallow Eldorath from drawing a couple cards. We happen to see a copy of the signature attachment Ku'gath's Banner being affixed to our Nurgle trait Warlord, and that's going to basically replicate his reaction. He's currently got 2 points of damage, so at the earliest opportunity to do so, he can be declared as an attacker. He'll potentially deal 1 point of damage to enemy units, but he'll have 2 different individual instances of an opportunity to assign, move 1 point of damage onto an enemy unit, or 1 point of damage onto 2 different enemy units, or, you know, focus both points of damage onto 1 unit. It's incredibly powerful, it's incredibly versatile, but in any case, Ku'gath does end up showing up to planet number 2. He's going to drop off that copy of Khorne Berserker. There's a freshly played copy of Khorne Berserker at that planet, and it looks as though Eldorath is once again going to be lured by the temptation of Slaanesh to planet number 4, so he's going to be able to get rid of that planet, but at what cost? The cost, of course, is going to be dropping off that copy of Spirit Seer Aerithal. So Ossus 4 is going to be won quite handily by Alexander Cimadon. That's going to be 1 resource stolen from his opponent. Planet number 1 was going to be 2 resources won by Cimadon. Planet number 2 is going to be a card and a resource for Cimadon. Note that the Ku'gath's Nurglings are going to take a swing at that Warlock Destructor. It takes 2 points of damage. Planet number 3 is going to be 2 resources for Troels. Planet number 4 is going to be a whopping 1 resource for Eldorath, and planet number 5 is going to be nobody getting anything. The Warlock Destructor takes a swing at that already damaged, I believe it was already damaged, copy of Khorne Berserker. That's going to be a 2 shield icon card being discarded, and that means that it is not going to be killed. It's just going to take an additional point of damage. Looks as though Ku'gath is going to shift 2 points of damage onto that copy of Warlock Destructor. Ku'gath's attack itself is a 1 attack value thing, and I guess our Eldar player may not have much in the way of shield icons in his hand, or he's simply decided to accept his fate there, because Ku'gath, due to the double damage reassignment and the attack, he's able to kill off that Warlock Destructor pretty handily indeed, and now he has got a hell of a lot of units set up very nicely to try to win against Eldorath during our following round here. So we're going to see Karrnath 1 after Ossus 4 is 1, so are we going to see a unit routed, or are we going to see a random card discard? If it were me, I would clearly go for the random card discard, but it seems as though we actually see Spirit Seer Aerithal routed, and that's going to be interesting. That'll be another unit being bounced into Troels' HQ, and therefore, presuming Eldorath is going to show up at presuming Eldorath is going to be showing up at Karrnath, that will be the victory condition for Alexander, and provided he's going to be able to take that home, that will be a victory for him. And note that the Ku'gath Snurglings are going to be an absolutely fantastic, source of damage, being assigned to the already wounded Spirit Seer. Eldorath himself is going to take a point of damage. And we've got that, 4 attack value Khorne Berserker that Eldorath can arrive and exhaust. There's going to be a copy of Khorne Berserker that's entirely hail, so it's only going to be able to attack for 2, but that's still going to be a lot of outgoing damage in any case, and provided that Ku'gath shows up at that planet again, he's going to take a point of damage from his Nurglings. That means he's going to have 2 points of damage. He's going to be able to reassign that onto the opposition. There's going to be a Heretic Inventor and a copy of Slith Mercenaries that are going to show up. They're going to each take a point of damage, but they're going to survive. They're going to be very formidable combatants regardless. So I can only imagine that this is going to be our final deploy phase of the game, but we've seen an HQ phase. That's going to be 4 resources and 2 cards for each of our players here. The initiative token is currently resting to the right in the possession of our Eldar faction player, and this is pretty interesting indeed. I guess I must have missed it, but I believe we saw Yavharn triggered. That must be a Wild Rider squadron sitting in the HQ of our Eldar player. I mean, that's the only explanation for that being there. And then I think a Heretic Inventor was also put into play into Cimadon's HQ, but let's see if that's going to make enough of a difference. We've now got a copy of Bloodied Reavers positioned at planet number 1, but if Ku'gath is going to be able to kill off the opposition, and Ku'gath has his signature attachment, he's got a whole lot of units to back him up, then that's going to be an absolutely fantastic source of damage to try to kill off all these Eldar units that are going to be arriving at that planet exhausted. Eldorath is only going to be able to pick and choose one of these targets to exhaust himself, but we see yet another formidable combatant. That's a copy of the Warlock Destructor at planet number 1. It's a 3/4. The Bloodied Reavers are going to be a 4/2, provided that a Warlord is sitting at that planet, and we've now got a 3rd copy, an entirely hail Khorne Berserker located at that planet. It's going to be a 2/4 unit. That is a lot of command icons. Even though Eldorath is going to arrive, he's going to be able to exhaust that 4 attack promoted Khorne Berserker. That's still going to be enough command icons that Ku'gath is going to be able to win at that planet. We've got a Chaos Fanatics at planet number 2. That's going to be 2 command icons, beating the 1 command icon associated with the Starbane's Council. Interestingly, Ku'gath has decided to forego showing up at the first planet, and that's a very interesting choice, but I guess it is hopefully going to pay off for him regardless, but that's a pretty ballsy move. Ku'gath is going to show up at Yavharn. He's not going to be able to contribute to this big battle here, so let's see what exactly is going to be happening. Eldorath is going to be showing up at planet number 4, and that is a very interesting choice. So Eldorath, I guess maybe we saw a copy of Foresight relocate him to planet number 4 so that he's able to knock out that copy of Ku'gath's Nurglings. So a whole lot of strange options going on, but I suppose Ku'gath is not going to be participating in the final fight. He's going to take a point of damage from being commit to planet number 1. He's going to take a point of damage from being removed to planet number 4, but he's going to prevent his opponent from getting that 2-card bonus at Barlas there. So very interesting how things have decided to pan out. But the command struggle at planet number 1 is going to be 1 card, 1 resource for Alexander, and it looks as though we see not 1 but 2 copies of Archon's Terror banishing units from that planet. That's going to be the Warlock Destructor gone. That's going to be a Wild Rider squadron gone. And now all of a sudden that very unusual Warlord committance makes perfect sense. That's going to be 3 copies of Archon's Terror Blade played back to back to back. That's no more than Spirit Seer Erathal sitting at that planet to try to oppose Alexander. So planet number 2 is 2 additional resources for Alexander to fund some of these effects. Planet number 3 is going to be an additional resource for Alexander. Wow. So even though the initiative token was in the hands of Troels there, he's going to be able to take a swing. I don't think he really ended up doing much of anything with that attack, and holy mother of God. That is a lot of Chaos units, so that was an absolutely ridiculous last turn. I thought that our players must have made some sort of mistake with the commitment dial in having Ku'gath go to not the most relevant, the most important planet, but he wanted every resource token possible. Perhaps Cimadon wanted to win with a little bit of a flourish, and he most definitely did so. So Troels, despite his best of efforts, he was not able to put up too much of a fight against Alexander Cimadon. 3 Slaanesh Temptations, 3 copies of Archon's Terror, all of that ended up proving to be a complete nightmare for our Eldar player, but that was a quickie. That was very quick and brutal, but an absolutely incredible game, so very well played by both of our players, and congratulations to Alexander for ending up and taking this one home. So thank you to him for providing me with this footage to commentate and publish to my channel, and of course thank you so much to Troels Berthelsen for being such a good sport in so many of these videos alongside Alexander, and throughout this gigantic series it was a hell of a lot of testing that they both did, all in preparation for Alexander attending the 2015 Nordic National Championships. So thank you to both of our players, thank you at home for watching, I very much hope you enjoyed this content, and as always, if you enjoyed this content, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already, or if you are already subscribed, then instead consider sharing this video, as the more individuals there are that end up exposed to these games, the more people may like what they see, they may give Conquest a try, they may join this living card game community, and of course, the more players we are in number, all the greater message we send to Fantasy Flight Games to continue to support this fantastic product. If at any point you would like to get in touch with me, I would very much encourage you to do so through Facebook or on Twitter, and if you'd ever like to send in footage of your own, whether it's a tabletop game like this one, or whether it's you recording an Octagon game on your desktop, I would be absolutely honored, flattered, and humbled were you to reach out and do so. I am always on the lookout for games, nowadays more so than ever. If you ever want to support the Hive Tyrant, I would also encourage you to check out my Patreon page, as every donation, every contribution to help support this channel is deeply appreciated, and indeed very much does help me to cover some of my file hosting and operating expenses. But I'll just end this video by saying thank you once again for watching, and as always, be sure to check back in again soon for much more Conquest LCG content to come.